everyone.
Hello.
This is the wonderful Therese, who is part of the Think Limitlessly anthology. Now, Theresa is actually based in the US, and she is one of those people that when you meet, you actually feel like you're home. And it's been a pleasure to actually really get to know Theresa at a much better, deeper level. And I'm really, really wanting you to know a bit more about her before you actually see her in this chapter. So Theresa, welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. Thank you, Cathy. And it really is wonderful that we've been able to have much deeper connection over the course of the last couple of months than we have over the last year or so. So this is great.
Yeah. So your chapter is actually about settling into yourself and your purpose. So tell us a little bit about what that means for you.
Settling into myself and my purpose. It really means finding my way. And I was talking to someone this morning and I said, sometimes one of the things that I've learned is that we don't always find exactly what we need right away. And sometimes our pathways, especially for people with hair like mine, have been well set. And it's almost sometimes feels as though their Jersey barriers are up. And in Australia, I don't know if you know the term Jersey barrier, but a Jersey barrier is something that is on the turnpike or the highway or the freeway. And what it is, it's a huge concrete block that prevents you from leaving your lane. So if you imagine two Jersey barriers on either side of you going down the highway, you're protected so that you're not going to go into any place else, but you also are prevented from going from any place else. So sometimes purpose and sometimes the way our life is set up for us, it's almost as if we have Jersey barriers. And one of the things that I've learned over the course of the last couple of years, especially, is that it's okay. You don't need those Jersey barriers. You can go where you need to go and where you want to go. And it's going to be just fine when you get there, regardless of what that's going to be.
The other thing, I guess, as I recall reading through your chapter, is you're explaining that part of your lived life at different stages of your life. But the one thing that you share is take action.
Sometimes things happen to you and they're not exactly what you thought they were going to be. And sometimes it's really wonderful and good and an opportunity. And other times it's like, oh man, this is a learning moment, but it's okay. And you have to take action. You have to figure out what you want to do and where you want to go. And you have to, one of the things that I've tried to do is take a step back to say, okay, why am I here? What's the lesson that I have to learn? What do I have to know? And what's the one thing that I can do now that will help me on a path to move forward? Even if I don't have the answer for what I need to do or where I need to go, that's okay. It's just, what's the one step I can take?
Now, I think when I actually read your chapter, you have several key milestones where you actually do that. And the lessons that you actually enable people to see and relate to are invaluable. The other thing that you actually talk about is the connections that you actually make. So tell us a little bit about that.
So one of my strongest themes is that I believe that we are all connected. We are interconnected within the universe, and that everything happens for a reason, even coincidences. Things that seem to be random are meant to happen and meant to be for you. So one of the things that I've learned over the many years is pay attention, because that could be an opportunity that you want to take advantage of, or pay attention because you're about to step into something that could cause you some grief, and you want to pay attention and be aware of what that is. Not that you stop doing it, but just be aware of what could happen. But I love the unexpected happenstances. I mean, when you go someplace and you find somebody just at that right time that you're thinking about them, it just, to me, is the universe pulling us all together. And, there have been some times when things have happened that have just been spiritual. And it's like people who have gone before us are still in our corner and still rooting for us and still helping us and taking care of us through all the different things that happen.
You know, that leads almost into the next thing that you talk about in the chapter, and that is that leap of faith. You know, that moment that you talk about earlier, you know, which is what I call about the pause moment. That pause moment now allows you to almost step outside of yourself and to look at things. But then you share this wonderful moments, you know, which is the leap of faith. So tell us a little bit more about that.
So I have always felt that there are other people, that what I'm doing is the best that I can do at this moment. And I have to take this information and I have to trust it. And by trusting it, I'm also trusting the spirit world, the universe, to also support me in all of this, because it is a leap of faith. It is an act of knowing that it's always going to come to be the way it's supposed to be, that it's always going to work out, and that what I have to do is pay attention, and what I have to do is do my very best in all of those moments so that it does come to fruition and it does work the way it's supposed to work. I don't want you to think that I'm naive in thinking that it's always going to work because I believe it's going to work, or that I'm thinking about it so it's going to be manifested right there. That to me, that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Because a leap of faith to me is almost like you spent 99% of your time preparing for these things to happen, and then something happens, a leap of faith happens, and then you're ready to go.
Yeah.
That you're in that moment, and you can recognize that something important is afoot, and that this is an opportunity that you should pay attention to.
You know, I look at it in exactly the same way. You know, I say you need to actually have that preparation up front. You need to have clarity as to what it is that you're doing. And then that window of opportunity, that's actually going to have, you know, a little bit of a gap there. So it's a matter of you taking that leap of faith to push it open and jump through, right?
Exactly. And it's fun. It's, you know, it can be scary, but you know, it is so enlivening. I mean, exhilarating to be able to do this. And it's just, and you know, the other part of all of this is being open to being with other people who are on the same journey and talking to them in the way in which you want to connect with them and to join them on their journey and support them on their journey and find a way so that they can support you in doing the things that you're doing. So it's really wonderful. You
know, since I've met you, I have actually watched you transition through that stage. That change that you talk about is also what you see as opportunity, and you talk about that in your book as well, So share a little bit about that.
So the opportunity comes in different points in time. When I was young, my husband and I were very young. We were married, I guess, about 8 years or so. And my father-in-law was sick, and he came and asked me to take over a business that he and my mother-in-law owned. And I was like, oh, but what about your son? You know, and my father-in-law had pretty much decided that no, I was going to be the one to do it, because his son was already working in New York, and that this would be something that he could continue to work. I could do this business and it would all work out fine. There's a lot more underneath all of that. So that's all I'll say about that.
I like how you casually skim through that.
Because it meant, I mean, he came to us in July. We ended up taking over the business. We moved in August, and our son, who was going into kindergarten, was very unhappy because he had gotten into the school that he wanted to get into. It was a public school, but it was a lottery for a magnet school, and he and his two friends were going to be there. And so to tell him that we were moving, he was not a happy camper. But he adjusted, and it all worked out well. But it was one of those leaps of, oh my gosh, is this something that I can do? And but trusting the universe that it was something that I was going to be able to do, that I was going to grow into it, even if I didn't have all the information at that moment in time, I was going to figure it out. And I did.
You know, it's interesting. You've almost amalgamated everything that you talk about in that one decision, right? The leap of faith, the opportunity, the change, all of that. And sometimes it is just as simple as that, but actually sitting back and going, well, really, I can do this, and actually having that belief in yourself.
I know when you start to succeed at one thing, then you think, oh, okay, maybe I can try this one too. So it just keeps going, right?
That's right. The opportunity, questioning yourself, oh, what else? And talking about what else, this is something that you and I actually have a really big passion with, and that is the philanthropical arm. So tell us about your roadmap, you know, and your connections with philanthropy and humanitarian work.
Oh my goodness. How much time do you actually have?
All the time for you.
Oh. Well, I've been doing work in philanthropy for about 23 years at this point. And I've been working on the fundraising side, the development side of the nonprofit space in the United States. And that means basically everything from working with all of our volunteers, both the board as well as all the other fundraising volunteers, helping to raise money from grant writing, direct mail, email, social media, major gifts, events, every way that you can think of, I've done it, planned gifts. And the one thing that has really inspired me about this is the passion behind why people do what they do, and the interest in which they really want to see a change in the world. I mean, people go into nonprofit work because they want to do something special. They want to help other people that they may never meet, help other people to achieve a dream or a goal for themselves. And through this journey, my goodness, I have met so many wonderful, wonderful people. And, you know, I've also, to talk about opportunity and seizing an opportunity, had really wonderful conversations with people. So I've done raise money for scientific research for diseases. And I did this one event for the organization I was working for, and I invited scientists to come and speak to some donors and other program staff and other leaders within the organization. And the scientist pulled me aside afterwards, and he said, you know, I spend my day in a lab with computers and with test tubes and with charts and statistics and graphs and all of that. I never met somebody who had this disease. And I never saw the face of what it meant to do the work that I do. And this couple let me take their photo. So I'm going to put it on my computer so that whenever I'm frustrated that I'm not getting a result that I need, I'm going to look at that and remember why I'm doing this. And I thought, okay, that makes it all worthwhile, right? You know, because you put a face to something that is intangible. And it's really important to me anyway.
It is so powerful what you have just shared. You know, sometimes it's the smallest things that we don't really recognize, but yet they are the most impactful. That story has so much meaning, not just for that scientist, for those people as well, for you, for everybody involved in that process. Like, that's just mind-blowing. Absolutely mind-blowing.
Yeah, and it's fun. I mean, I've got a million stories like that. It's I think being in the philanthropic sector, it really helps to take yourself out of what you're doing. And, you know, a lot of people work in order to raise the stock price for a company, to increase their own income, to do things for others. But it's not necessarily benefiting immediately somebody else. Whereas the work in the nonprofit sector, you're able to see a benefit for somebody that is really important, that, you know, it's either putting food on their table, providing education for young people, for girls, for healthcare access. I mean, all of those things are really, really important. Housing.
Well, there are so many reasons. And I think once you tap into that and find out what it is that you want to contribute to, I think it really changes your outlook on life. it certainly changes the way that you engage with people too.
Mhm,
You know, nothing is ever a process. There's deep meaning behind it all.
mhm, mhm. It is.
Now, you actually share a few tips with the readers. Now, I'm going to pick one of them and
Okay,
ask if you don't mind sharing a little bit of insight as to what that actually means for you.
okay.
So, one of them is persist. Keep going no matter what. You have done that. I have seen that in part of what you have shared in this chapter.
Yeah, I have done that. But it also comes from some of the work that I've done. When we had our business, I mean, it was always being persistent with regard to helping our staff to do the work that they needed to do, to learn how to do what they needed to do. In my nonprofit work, persistence as a fundraiser is really important, because people are not always ready to talk to you when you're ready to ask them for a gift. And donors give on their timeline, which is fine. I just have to be politely persistent and remind them that we're still here. And, would you like to have a conversation? And is there anything that I can do to help you think this through? So but it's just continuing to put one foot in front of the other, to know exactly where you're going and what you want to do. Even if you don't have the whole roadmap out there, to know that, okay, here's my next step, here's my third step, and to just keep going, to know that you're doing something special every day.
Yeah. So that persistence that you actually share, it's actually in everything in life. And sometimes when we get a no, we take that personally.
I know.
So, what
Yeah.
you're sharing is, when you know the reasons why you're doing something, no is not about you. It's actually about knowing this moment. So having that comfort, in being able to come back at a later stage and just go, I'm still here,
Yeah.
just in case,
Yeah.
or when you're ready, so
Mhm,
that's in business just as much as it is in
mhm,
philanthropy, in
mhm,
relationships, in
mhm,
everything that we do. It's such a
mhm.
valuable tip that you actually share.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think your point about it's not about us. It's not a rejection of us. And in philanthropy, especially, and even in business, a no is not always a hard no. It could be a not now, it could be a later, it could be, oh, I can't think about this, or that's too much, or that's too little, or we have to go back to the drawing board and rethink this. I mean, a no is not always a no. And I think that the one thing that I have learned is the work that I do is meaningful to me, but it's not about me.
Yes.
And it's not something, I mean, I can get upset when someone says to me, oh, I really don't like the way you cook this meal, because that's something that I did for myself and for the person that I'm with. If an executive or a leader in our organization says, I really don't like the way you wrote that letter, I really don't like the way you asked for that gift, I don't really don't like the way you did that presentation, that's an opportunity to learn to grow. And that's an opportunity to say, okay, I need to learn how to better position the message that I want to leave with this organization or with this group about our organization, so that they get to know us better. It's not about me, Theresa, it's about me, the organization. And that's totally separate. And I think I've noticed that there are people talk about being able to not take it personally, but I've seen such dejection on people's face when they leave, or they leave a meeting like that, or they leave that conversation, that it's really hard. And those kind of conversations are hard to learn to navigate, even from a leader's point of view, of how do you give bad news to somebody. And I've been in situations where you've given and received bad news, and I know that it's not about me, Theresa, it's about me in this particular situation or this role. And that's not as important to me. It's me, Theresa.
Yeah, look, it's such a valuable skill to develop. And
Mhm.
it's not to say that we won't actually be triggered, but it's actually to recognize in that moment that we are experiencing
Right.
those emotions, but then
Mhm.
actually pushing through to say, well, what can I actually take away from this?
Mhm.
And that's when we actually become the better version of ourselves in every
Mhm.
situation.
Right. Right. And if we can just remember in that moment to take a breath, or to
Yes.
give ourselves some, even just 5 seconds of time to think and say, okay, I recognize that I'm receiving this information. It's okay. It's not about me.
Yeah.
And then move on to finish the conversation. Because that's hard to learn and it's hard to do, but it's so important because we're awesome people and
Mm,
we're about to do some really incredible things. We just might not know exactly what that is right now.
exactly. Well, Theresa, for those that will actually be picking up this wonderful book that you are a party to, what other message would you like to share that might not be in this chapter?
Mhm. Don't give up.
Ah, yep.
Don't give up. Keep going
Yeah.
and know that it's going to get better. I don't know if you remember the Broadway show Annie and
Oh,
the song
yes.
Tomorrow,
Yeah.
but it's one of my favorite songs. And it could be because it was such a young girl who sang it, or she had such a powerful voice when she sang it. But it's optimistic and it looks ahead to the future. And I
Yeah.
think we have to be optimistic, especially in this day and age, and know that it's okay. We just have to keep going.
Absolutely. And with that, if people actually want to reach out to you, how would they do that? What's the best way?
The best way is through our website and through my email, if that's okay. My email is my name, Theresa.Haenn@aurorophilanthropic.com. So I realize that's a lot. Um,
Well, as we share these details, they'll actually be made
Mhm.
available, but it's also actually in your chapter at the
Mhm.
end of your chapter with all of your contact details.
Perfect. Thank you.
Theresa, it has been such a joy to actually share this moment with you. I can't wait for this to actually be out into the universe.
Me too.
Thank you for being a part of it. It has been such a privilege and a joy to actually share
Yeah.
this journey with you.
Thank you, Cathy. I really appreciate this because we were brought together for a good reason.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. All right.